Hi BookTube, it's Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here to do another tag video. I'm here to do the classics tag. I actually originally saw this tag over on Sam's channel at Novels and Nonsense. It was originally created by Vienna at It's a Book World, and I will of course link both of those people down below. I saw Sam do this tag, and I really liked it because I thought it asked a lot of interesting questions about the classics, and I love the classics. It's one of my favorite genres besides like sci-fi and YA stuff. So let's get into the questions. The first question is an overhyped classic that you really didn't like. My least favorite classic for forever has been Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I first read this book in my junior year English class at school, and I loathed it. I remember going into it with such high hopes because my English teacher told me it would be absolutely hilarious because it's so sarcastic and it was supposed to really jive with my sense of humor, and it just didn't. I wasn't feeling it. I've read it since then and still it's just not working out for me. Everybody who I know who's read this book either loves it or hates it. So it's just one of those books, I guess. And I am fully on the hate side. The next question is your favorite time period to read about. I actually have two answers for this question. The first one I will be kind of representing with the Great Gatsby because I love the Roaring Twenties, A Movable Feast, The Expatriates in France, Zelda, F. Scott, Hemingway, Gertrude Stein, kind of all of these people together. The Great Gatsby is one of my absolutely favorite books. I'm actually getting ready to reread it because it's getting to be almost summertime, which I think is just the perfect time to read The Great Gatsby. And the second book I picked for this question is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens because I love Victorian England. I love the way Charles Dickens especially writes about Victorian England. I love kind of steampunk, modern alternative takes on, Victorian England. I absolutely love it. So there you go. Those are the top two for me. The next question is, the embarrassing, thing that you should have read by now that you haven't read. And for this, I'm going to pick Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. It's the last Jane Austen I haven't read. This is an edition I was assigned in a class I took in college where we only read Jane Austen, but I didn't read this one because I didn't feel like it. And it was the last one assigned right before midterms and finals time. So that just didn't happen. But I'd like to read it so that I can say that I've read all of Jane Austen. I just haven't yet. I just haven't. Favorite fairy tale. Okay, this one is actually probably pretty interesting because it's not a European fairy tale or what most people think of as a fairy tale, but I love the Arabian Nights. First of all, I love this cover. Let's just take a second to do a little cover listing. This is the Barnes & Noble Leather-Bound Classics edition. It's got the gilt pages and stuff. Oh, it's so pretty. But I love the Arabian Nights because it is a fairy tale that's all about storytelling. Scheherazade has to tell a story every night to keep herself alive, to kind of distract the emperor who wants to murder her until the next night. It all makes more sense when you read it, but I absolutely love it. Like I said, I love this edition. It's got these beautiful, absolutely stunning illustrations. Of course, it's got really nice detail along the page edges. It's just wonderful. I could not suggest it more. I know I talked more about the physical layout of the book, but it's just a book about how storytelling can literally save your life, about what storytelling looks like. There are a bunch of quotes I've underlined all over the different copies that I've had, just with different quotes and kind of writer advice from 1001 Nights or the Arabian Nights. I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favorite fairy tales. All right, top 5 classics you want to read soon. This, by soon, I just mean eventually, because a lot of these books are really big. Case in point, the unabridged Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, which this one is the Signet Classic. It's kind of an old edition, and it clocks in at 1463 is the final page count. So that's a 1,500 page book. That's a multiple month book. That is a year long kind of commitment for me, or half a year long commitment for me. So this one might take a while, but I adore the movie. I adore Victor Hugo. I loved The Hunchback of Notre Dame when I read it, back, I think I was in high school, late junior high, early high school, something like that. But I still have never gotten around to this one just because it's so honkin' big that it kind of scares me. The next classic that I really need to get around to reading is Villette by Charlotte Bronte. I absolutely was fascinated by Jane Eyre the first time I read it. I won't say that I loved it, but I was fascinated by it. And Wuthering Heights is one of my favorite, but also one of the most problematic books that I've ever read. So I'm just kind of, slowly working my way through all of the Bronte sisters, except for Anne. I've actually never read any Anne Bronte, and I need to get on that immediately. The reason I'm not talking about it now is because I don't actually own any Anne Bronte, but I do own Villette, by Charlotte, and I need to get around to reading it. It is about Lucy Snow, who goes to be, I believe, a teacher, at a French boarding school, and has all kinds of adventures, happy and tragic. Clearly, I don't really know much about it, but it's been sitting on my shelves for ages, and I need to get it out of there. The next one that I need to read is Notes from the Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is another one of those books that I was assigned in school and never got around to reading. I was assigned to read it in Western Civ, and that just did not happen because you're assigned to read like a million things in Western Civ, and I just didn't. I enjoyed Crime and Punishment when I... Oh my God, sorry, my dog's terrifying me. Penny! I really, really liked Crime and Punishment when I read it, and this one's so short that I don't know why I haven't, but I think it's because it's kind of dense, and it's not really necessarily plot stuff. It's just kind of ruminations. So we'll see. The next one on my list, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, yes, is The Portrait of a Lady by Henry James. Another huge one that I just have not yet gotten to because it is so ginormous. I think that this is one of those books that I am almost kind of scared of finishing. Not scared, but it's just, I've had it for so long, and for some reason Henry James is just so daunting to me, and I don't know why, because everybody that I know who's read him has loved him, but there's just something about it that's just so big. But Isabel Archer is supposed to be one of the most beloved heroines in literature, or at least quite a few people who I know have told me that. So maybe I'll get into this one this summer. Maybe I'll follow up the Fitzgerald with this one. I'm not quite sure that I'm sold on it yet. And last but not least, oh no, where'd it go? It's here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Last but not least, the one that I want to read is actually, it's not this whole thing. This is a 3-volume bind-up of Ray Bradbury novels, and the one I want to read is this very last one right here, The Golden Apples of the Sun, because I've read the other two along with Something Wicked This Way Comes, Fahrenheit 451, his collected letters, a volume of short stories, just random collected short stories, and something else. So I'm very, very close to being done reading all the Ray Bradbury I can find. The only one that I haven't read is The Golden Apples of the Sun, thus the reason that I need to read it. And those are the 5 classics. The next question is favorite new book based on a classic. I wouldn't necessarily call this my favorite. Sam and I actually have the same answer to this question because I also couldn't think of anything better. But the one that I picked for this question is Cinder by Marissa Mayer, which is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles, which is a retelling of Cinderella, but if Cinderella were a robot, basically. And there's all this stuff, and it turns out that the Chronicles take on other fairy tales too. There's the Little Red Riding Hood and the one with the long hair, Rapunzel, there we go. But yeah, so this is multiple volumes. There was just a little novella that came out, and the next one, Winter, is set to come out in this year sometime, but I'm not sure when. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite. It's cute. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I've liked all the ones I've read so far. This is just the only one that I had on my shelves that fit the answer to this question. The next one is favorite movie or TV series based on a classic. And I think I'm going to give the same answer to this one that every person I've seen do this video has given. And that is the Colin Firth BBC 6-volume Pride and Prejudice. Mostly for that scene where he falls in the fountain and then walks out all slow with his shirt all wet and stuff, because I love me some Colin Firth, especially when Colin Firth is young, especially when Colin Firth is playing Mr. Darcy. But along those same lines, I also really, really liked the Bridget Jones adaptation, of the movie adaptation of Bridget Jones' Diary, because that's a really good Pride and Prejudice riff also. And that one's got both Hugh Grant and, oh my gosh, Colin Firth. That's what happens when your brain just stops working on camera. But yeah, that one also has Colin Firth and Hugh Grant in it, and that's hard to beat. Worst TV or movie adaptation of a classic. I might be the only person who thinks this, but I hated Baz Luhrmann's Great Gatsby. I hated it. I actually thought Leonardo DiCaprio made like a spot on Gatsby, so I don't have a problem with that. But I had a huge, huge problem, one, with Tobey Maguire, and two, with the way that they frame-tailed it, like with him being like in therapy and needing to like journal his way into understanding his past memory or whatever. I didn't like it. I didn't think it needed to be done. Nick Carraway is one of my favorite like men in all of literature, basically, and the journey of like self-discovery and kind of like self-actualization that he goes on in that novel is like my absolute favorite, and I just didn't think Baz Luhrmann got it right. I loved the soundtrack because who doesn't like them a little like Queen Bee, but at the same time I just was not having it, so downgrade. 2 thumbs down. Favorite editions of classics that you want to collect? Okay, this one's easy. You've actually already seen a couple of them. They are the Barnes & Noble leather-bound classics editions of books. I just think that they're absolutely gorgeous. The covers are usually so pretty. We didn't really do like a close-up of this cover. I'll just like look at it. But I don't know if you can tell this is like shiny, whereas this is all matte. These are embossed, all these little stars. Of course, like the titles and all the authors all embossed, and the edges are raised, the pages are gilt, they all come with the little ribbon markers. I just think they're wonderful. They have such a good collection, and they're kind of always kind of redoing these covers, but all in this style, this like faux leather style. And what can I say? I've just always been one of those people who has imagined like having a future library filled with leather-bound volumes, and since I haven't won the lottery yet, these will just kind of have to suffice. I also really, really love the Penguins Classics editions, which I don't have any of, but I'm hoping to get some soon. I'm sure you've all seen them. They're usually solid color background, printed with the same kind of pattern over and over. I know like the Christmas Carol one has snowflakes. I think Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens has umbrellas on it, but I'm not positive. I wish I had one to show you, but yeah, if you just Google it, you'll see they're absolutely stunning, the Penguins Clock the Bound editions. And the last one, the underhyped classic you'd recommend to everyone. This one, I don't necessarily think is underhyped, like just like in the general sense of the word, but I do think it's underhyped in relation to like this author's work, and that's The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Everybody I know talks about The Moonstone. Whenever I hear it kind of like talked about online, or people are bringing up to read for like Halloween time, everybody's always talking about The Moonstone. I thought The Woman in White was so much better than The Moonstone, that it was so much more riveting. I thought the plot was so much more intriguing. Wilkie Collins is a master of like Victorian suspense. It's absolutely fantastic. How many times can I say fantastic in a video? But it's so good. I believe it's shorter than The Moonstone, although I'd have to go and get my copy of The Moonstone to double check. But I'm pretty sure it's shorter than The Moonstone, and if you haven't read it yet, you absolutely need to. And that, my friends, is the end of the classics tag. Thank you guys so much for kind of stopping by and reading books with me. I'm like searching for something. Okay. But yeah, so like, comment, subscribe down below. Feel free. I tag anybody who wants to do this tag. As you guys know, I don't really do the specific tags thing just because I want to hear everybody's answers. Please feel free to make your own version of this video and let me know down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys around the internet. Bye.